Welcome back for the Verizon post-game interview. It's finally Rob's day here in Mexico as Loud grabbed the first win here in the playing stage. Thank you so much for joining me. Tell me how you managed to bounce back after the first game.
Basicamente, no primeiro jogo, a gente sabia que o draft não estava dos melhores, não estava muito favorável para o nosso estilo de jogo. E a gente conversou bastante, decidiu mudar para o segundo jogo. E a gente draftou alguma coisa que a gente é muito mais acostumado e foi bem mais fácil.
So basically, on the first game, we couldn't do much, and after that game, we talked a lot with each other. And for the second game, we managed to get something that we're used to it, and work out very fine.
Super effective and clean game, indeed. I don't know if you saw, Fudge tweeted about the fact that, you were one of the best teams they faced in Scrim. How do you react on that?
Cara, eu fico bem feliz com isso. Acho que a gente eles terem dado treino pra gente foi uma honra. E eu estou muito feliz com isso e eu agradecer eles também por ter treinado com a gente. E a gente realmente acho que mandou bem contra eles e por isso acho que ele falou isso.
So first of all, we'd like to thank them for. It's an honor for us to scrim with them, and we actually did a good job against them, and that's it.
I get that it's an honor, but it's also deserved when you guys have been playing so well. But you're used to the international stage. I mean, you played 17 games internationally now, I think. What is this Worlds about for you this time?
Cara, nesse Worlds eu sinto que a gente pode ganhar de qualquer time. É a primeira vez que eu sinto que a gente consegue bater de frente com as regiões Majors também. Então eu estou muito confiante ainda, mesmo com o nosso primeiro jogo não sendo tão bom. Estou bem confiante que a gente vai conseguir aí passar para a fase de grupos.
I believe that we can beat any team, even from the major regions.
Yeah.
We trust each other, and we have the potential to go to the group stage.
I love the confidence coming from Loud, but I also love how loud your fans are, actually. I mean, how much is it helping you, the fact that you have so much support, both on stage, but also on Twitter and on social media?
Cara, eu particularmente fico bem hypado com isso, é uma coisa que me deixa muito, muito feliz, saber que tem tanta gente me apoiando e eu quero ganhar por eles e chegar na fase de grupos e fazer história pro Brasil.
Well, it gets me a lot of hype, it makes me very happy, and I want to get mixed to the group stage for them.
Super excited to see more from you guys. Obrigada for the interview.
Thank you.
Lucas, thank you so much also for the translation.
Thank you so much.
And you guys in LA, back to you.
Thank you so much, Lauren. Welcome back to Worlds 2022. Now, we've seen many new faces so far in play-ins, but the match before us features two teams who went to MSI and returned back to the world stage with the same rosters that they went with just a couple months ago. Of course, first we'll start with the Istanbul Wildcats. We already met them earlier in the day, talked a bit about this roster. Very cool to see them. 4 seasons, 4 splits in a row with these same 5 players. If I recall correctly, they go up against the Saigon Buffalo today from the VCS. Our first look at this roster.
Yeah, and I mean, like you just hit on, right, this is a roster that we've seen so far this year. They were at MSI. They were super exciting. Sadly, I believe they weren't the first seed, right? GAM weren't able to attend MSI. They went, and I think they stole a lot of hearts, especially Shogun and Taki, solo killing, 2v2 killing the T1 bot lane.
And they hold a little bit of an accolade to themselves as they enter this tournament. The youngest team here at Worlds stepping onto the stage.
They have no battle scars. They are willing to just take any single fight. The average age is 19 years old. It's incredible how skilled this team is and the fact that they're attending now their second major international tournament. So that average age I don't think should be used against them. They're very talented. They're very willing to go for fights, and they play fast.
What were you doing at that age?
Video games.
Okay, yeah, you were the wrong person to ask that
I was playing a lot of video games.
It's like I was playing this game.
Was that?
No, this
was Guild Wars?
I was playing.
Was this Guild Wars?
Yeah, it was like probably Rebel Rising.
Nice. Yeah, this for 19, I guess I was in college. It was Call of Duty for me at that point while in college. But a quick look at this VCS team and some of their play throughout the year. What can we expect out of this squad?
A lot of aggression, like you said,
it?
especially in that bot lane. Just hit on it one more time. Again, MSI 2v2 killing T1's bot lane was like the first big hype moment of MSI. Everyone's like, whoa, who are these guys? Where did they come from? Taki especially is someone that I know a lot of people are very hyped on coming into the support role with how he leads the engages and how he leads the team.
So I immediately find that interesting based on what we were talking about the strengths for Istanbul Wildcats were earlier in the day, saying a little bit more of a mid to late game focus for them, happy to scale, look for team fights. So the aggression out of the young guns versus Istanbul, who might try and hold on and wait to a point where they can outplay late?
Yeah, I don't want to overly put teams in boxes because a lot can change in how you want to approach the game between Summer Split and playoffs. But I do agree that is the trend that we would expect to see. Istanbul Wildcats also had not a very great early game earlier today, nearly pulled it back in the mid game. So in theory, if they can hold on and keep the game pretty even for the first 20 minutes, they would then, Istanbul Wildcats would be favored to win the game.
Well, we'll have to see if that happens. We can see here numbers thrown up on your screen. This is combined kills per minute in terms of generally an indicator of the willingness of these teams, right, to fight.
Yeah, and I will say, like, 0.79, 11th at Worlds, there's 24 teams at Worlds. So
still in the top
this
half.
stat doesn't necessarily reflect a slower style, but that can also just be when you do have big climactic team fights, that can still inflate that number, even if they're happening later in the game.
Yeah, and you know, coming out from both teams' regional playoffs, actually just Istanbul Wildcats overall over in the TCL, more than half of their games, they played from a disadvantage at the 14-minute mark. And then you move over to Saigon Buffalo in their playoffs. They had the highest average kills at 15 minutes and the second highest average deaths at 15 minutes. So, you know, kind of showing that disparity in teams.
At 15 minutes.
Yeah, there it is. There it is. That's it right there. I mean, I hope to see a lot of action in this game that we're about to see take place. But as we kind of talk about not wanting to put teams in boxes so early on in tournaments, I thought that'd be kind of a fun transition back to a conversation we started earlier, which was about the crystal ball picks and the variety of categories and things that we can talk. You want to head over? Or do you want me to do it?
We have it on the screen.
We do. I was going to go, but if you want to go, I know how much you love the telestrator chat. If we could get this loaded up for me, that would be great. I believe production. Oh, boom, they're very, very quick. So what we did is we pulled all of the different crystal ball categories. I'm going to read one out. We're going to discuss as a group. So starting out first, which team will win Worlds? This one feels pretty simple in terms of, you know.
Dude, I'd love to see if Riot could release the percentages of what people voted. That would be so fascinating to me.
Well, I can't promise that today, but maybe we can get to that at some point. But what are we thinking immediately? Earlier today, it was JDG
and RNG.
I said RNG.
Okay, so
you just write LPL in there, you know?
But, like, I am saying this because I want to be like the only one who wins this game.
Okay, so Jad's going for RNG, but Lyric, well, what are you doing? Come on, give me something real here.
JD Gaming.
Okay, all right, but either way, you're saying that for the third year in a row, the LPL is going to retain the world title.
Dash, what's yours?
I said earlier that I think Gen G has a good shot. I think Gen G has a good shot.
They did dominate the LCK. So, like, in terms of the discussion around this one, my sell for RNG is that they're the MSI champions.
Yep.
They played very poorly on the patch that decided what their seeding was for Worlds.
Yeah.
They lost 2 best-of-5s to EDG. Other than that, they didn't lose a best-of-5 in the LPL the whole year and were MSI champions, and actually improved their summer split record over their spring split record from 12-4 to 13-3. So that's my RNG sales pitch.
I'm just going to answer this one for all of us. Based on the way the games went today. If we were doing this before the games played out today, maybe there'd be some argument for EG, but at this point, they're not going to top the group. Obviously, over here, I think we're all in agreement that it is going to be RNG. I want to get to some of the more interesting categories, right? Let's get through some of this. So, which team from a region with 2 seeds or less will advance furthest through Worlds? So this is where it starts to get interesting for me. Some of these emerging regions and who really poses the biggest threat.
I think this one's a tie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's work it out. Give us your 2 thoughts, and maybe Lyric and I can land on one for you.
Okay, so 2 teams are already in the group stage.
Yes.
2 seeds or fewer. Flying Oysters and the Gigabyte Marines. Like, it's so unlikely that a play-in region with fewer than 2 seeds makes it even to group stage. It has to be between those 2.
I like that call. So then it's about which of those 2 teams, Lyric.
In my mind, I've been saying all day, I love Saigon Buffalo, so for me it's VCS. And even looking at like Gigabyte Marines, you know, this isn't for a play-in stake, but I have some spicy Gigabyte Marines predictions as well.
Really?
For later on.
Okay,
I mean,
so
right now it's like, who's going to advance further?
So
this is
I feel like we've now kind of screwed ourselves because I want to vote for Flying Oyster just because their name is Flying Oyster, and I think that's the greatest League of Legends team name in the history of League of Legends team names. But I do think that Gigabyte Marines is probably the team overall from that region that I have more faith in. But I do also like the Saigon Buffalo call. So I'm going to tie break, and I'm going to go with Jat, and I'm going to go with Gigabyte Marines.
Okay. Let's go. Gam.
All right, boom, Gam. That was a bad M. All right, next up, which team will play the most different champions at Worlds? So team. I think this is where we start to play onto things like, well, if RNG is actually going to run all of play-ins and to the finals, they have the most opportunity to play a lot of unique champions. But are they actually the kind of players who will expand their pools and show that kind of unique stuff?
I think no way.
You don't?
Just coming from LPL, like RNG were one of the teams that like they have their dedicated champ pools that they are very good on. And heck, that's why they started to fail in playoffs, right? Because they stuck with the style they knew. They started to branch into Zerys and Sivers at the end. Couldn't work. I actually think it'll be a team, which, funnily enough, I don't have a ton of faith in, like Top Esports.
Okay.
I think like Jackie Love Knight, these guys are willing to play literally anything.
Teams that you still think will go a long way.
Yeah.
For me, like, if I want to be consistent, it's like pairing a fantasy quarterback with the same receiver. It's like if one does well, you're going to win both.
You're going to get them both,
Like if I'm saying if RNG is going to play in every stage of Worlds, they have to be my prediction here.
I want to remind you guys of last year's MSI, which RNG won.
Yeah.
And they picked Kai'Sa 5 games in a row and no one banned it. Things like that.
Do we have any? I actually do. I wish I had asked for this information. I'm curious which team did play the most unique champions at last year's Worlds. I know that last year's Worlds as a tournament had the most unique champions of any Worlds, and typically year over year, we add 1 or 2 to that number. But I would be curious if it was our World Championship team that actually had it, or if maybe a team that exited in the quarters had it ultimately.
Yeah.
I'm going to ultimately
guess
say...
EDG. I'm just guessing.
You're going RNG?
And I'm guessing EDG had the most. So I'm
EDG.
100% going RNG for this.
You're going RNG for this. You're going top.
Yeah.
And Dash is going with T1.
G2.
Actually, T1's not a horrible.
It's not that bad.
It's not
T1
a
was
horrible
my second
prediction.
guess,
plays
honestly.
everything.
I actually wasn't going to do that. I think you've convinced me. So I'm going to write them all down. We had our NG, because we didn't have to agree on this one. You had top.
Yeah.
I'm
T1's
going to
a
write
great guess.
top, even though it's TES. Sorry. And then T1. All right. So that is our first slate of Crystal Ball picks. Let's see if I can flip us over.
Just FYI, there is a delay on stage.
Oh, yeah. Well, again, we don't just do this just to talk.
We don't just,
I know there's some people that think that, like, I really, really want to let everyone know my Crystal Ball picks more than watching Worlds, but, like, there is a delay.
Here we go. We're on to the next set here, so I'll move back over here. Who will have the highest KDA at Worlds? Which player is going to have the highest KDA at Worlds?
So, I mean, there's a trend with me.
Yeah.
Is
RNG.
it Gala?
It has to be
Xiaohu,
Gala.
Gala. Okay.
Gala.
I think Gala's a pretty good bet.
I actually agree. I actually think, even though I don't predict RG, winning, I think Gala is a pretty solid guess.
You know who I think it's going to be?
Who?
Yeah.
It's not a real guess, but I think it's going to be Rux. He's 0-0 and 22 right now. Rux
But no one could even predict him. He wasn't even in the app.
He wasn't, and
he's got an
I
infinite
just won the
KDA.
game!
But I don't even think he's allowed to play again.
And actually, yes, if he subs out and Hilly comes in, does he have the highest KDA in Worlds?
This is bad probably for an official broadcast to say, but like, because I haven't read the whole rule set, but he was an emergency sub.
That's a good point.
So when the player that was on the submitted roster arrives, he probably shouldn't even be allowed to continue playing.
Yeah. I mean, if we were doing this game for Rio, we would have already had to make these predictions before we saw today's games, but that's the privilege of being the on-air talent.
Wow.
So I'm actually just going to go ahead and say it. We're going to go with Rux. I think I'm spelling this correctly. Boom. He's got an infinite KDA. You can't beat this guy.
My actual prediction was Gala, but this is.
I actually do think, if we're being real, that is a phenomenal prediction. Again, assuming that this team goes all the way, your 80 carry is probably going to be one of the people supporting the highest.
Yeah, it's like take your World's winner and make it the 80 carry.
I'm liking this blue color a lot
It could be Ruler,
more.
it could be Viper, it could be Gala, it could be all those things.
All right, who will play the most different champions at Worlds? We talked about team-wise who would. Which player is most inclined to bring out a lot of unique picks?
I put Breathe.
Breathe.
There's a trend. I have all the RNG players.
And we chose the wrong person to play this game with, Eric.
I'm actually torn between...
Yeah, like which role are you going to take to play the most? Because I didn't do Ming.
I think top lane is something that shouldn't be ignored.
I think it's top or support, which is why I was either leaning towards Flandre, because Flandre plays crazy things, or else going to go Keria. Because
Keria is a good one.
I know. What? So support's interesting because it's about how deep into like enchanter pools will people go. Like we saw Vulcan go for the Lux, and you can go anything engage, and then maybe we'll see the Yumis come back out later in the tournament. And then top lane is interesting because you have everything from all the weak side stuff. We've seen Maokai, we've seen Ornn, we've seen Aatrox, we've seen Gnar already, but then we've also seen Jack, Fiora, Tom. I mean, like, I don't know. I'm kind of leaning top lane, I think.
Yeah.
I like the Flandre pick, and you went with Breathe?
Yeah.
I mean, Flandre.
Are you gonna? Do you want to flip flop over to Flandre with us, or you want to?
No. I'm gonna stick.
Okay, I'm more aligned with
The
Lyric
biggest
here.
LPL fanboys coming from the LCS broadcast.
Yeah, I apologize. Like, this is weird.
And then breathe, you said?
Yeah.
Does he have an extra E at the end?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, throw that second E in there.
I just want to make sure I want to get it right. I want to get it right. Okay, next up, who will get at least one Pentacle at Worlds? Well, we know the answer to that.
Yeah, you know who else?
Who else?
Gala.
Okay, so Jat wants Gala.
I also want Gala, but I would like to add in a Jackie Love.
Oh.
Okay, but upset action.
I'm gonna take the actual points, the for sure points.
Again, would have been a bold prediction because some people didn't even know if he was gonna be here on time.
That's true.
Yes,
and you said Jackie Love?
Yeah.
I like that call too. Okay, but 80 carries is obviously
it's the 80
where
carries.
we
Like,
are
if you
going.
don't pick an 80 carry for this prediction, you're trolling.
Sorry, ruler.
Totally. Okay, next up, who will get the most first blood kills at Worlds? Who will be first blood king here at Worlds? Again, I think play-ins, definitely look at a team that's gonna play all the way through play-ins and deep into Worlds, and you've got a good shot. I don't think it's none of it's not gonna be any of the NA teams. I don't think it's any of the EU teams either.
I don't think it's RNG.
You
no.
don't think it's RNG?
No.
They're not gonna do that much early on?
Nope. Like, my faith in VCS wants to go far. I want to say
Saigon Buffaloes?
I want to say Shogun. but-
Yeah, who will it be? Who will it be? We need an answer here because I hear they're about ready on stage. So we gotta
Tien.
put in a name.
Yeah.
Tien. Boom. He said it, so we're gonna write it in.
Yeah, and then give me Gala for most kills in a single game of World. Yeah, it's coming.
All right, well, we've learned that Jat's entire prediction is Gala across the board. That was a fun game for us to play, but the players are ready, so we're gonna waste no time. Get back on over to Quickshot and Goldberg for the call. Enjoy.
Thank you so much, Dash Jat and Lyric. 2 games left to play. And we turn our attention to Saigon, Buffalo, Raised Mark, Ruffaloes, taking on the Istanbul Wildcats. I think looking at this game and looking at how Wildcats played earlier against Mad Lions, there is a gigantic stylistic mismatch. Saigon, like go, 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 kill, kill, kill. Wildcats, while they have a fairly high CKPM, not on the same pace.
Yeah, and I mean, I would love to get into more of the storylines of both teams that we get into the game, but just from the get-go, stylistically, as you're saying, Saigon Buffalo, very fast. Wildcats, very slow, and quite often depend on team fights later in the game to get back into it. As we saw earlier today, just not able to really find that mark. But I think if you're a team that struggles in the early game, when you play against better teams that really looks to utilize every single advantage you have in the early game, that becomes tough to play. And because of that, I do regard Saigon Buffalo as a big favorite in this game.
Now, can you keep an eye on the draft and tell me if you think we're leaning into the respective domestic play styles of the 2 squads? I think that the Hecarim is going to be an immediately yes already. It's the go, go, go button. It's literally designed to run and dive into your face.
Yeah, but it will actually slow BJ down a little bit because now you wait to level 6 instead of the level 3 that would probably usually come through. But actually, he'll probably still find a way to make something happen at level 3 just to keep it going.
Devastating charge will just amplify him in. We'll see whether or not there's any additional sort of enabling or supportive champions. Sejuani and Sylas locked in here for the Wildcats.
Yeah, and I think this is just great. You know, Hecarim's already the champion. You don't have to worry about a Trundle. Sylas is one of the champions that's really difficult to actually punish, and already having the onslaught of shadows to steal away is a great one. So you're finding good teamfight tools on the side of Wildcats, which is usually what they like. And whoa, 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 whoa.
Okay, super quick. Zach is now locked in with Hecarim and MissFortune. The question I want to throw out to you, is this a Taki Zach? And why am I saying that, Trevor? Well, Taki's champion pool this summer has included Ashe, Karma, Rumble, he played Camille at MSI, he's played Sylas, Gragas, Seraphine. Well, this is a guy that plays anything and everything. I wonder if it could happen.
Yeah, I mean, this is the power of the flexes that you get through, because we've even seen we've seen the Sack in the top lane, and we've heard about Sack support as well, so it's not unheard of that it can go a lot of different places. I mean, Hecarim top lane even used to be a thing of the past, although majority of the games we've seen from him have been and will also be played in that jungle. On the side of HolyPhoenix, they pick up that Kai'Sa, has been utilized great in team fights once again. So this is the teams, or rather the stylistic we're looking at for Wildcats.
When I take a look at Zach, not a single game here, Saigon Buffalo all year long, obviously, or maybe a little bit surprisingly. I want to find out where the draft takes us. Kai'Sa was the last lock in here for the Wildcats. Going for that blue and purple theme. Talia's banned away. Lee Sin followed up as well.
And just to go into what these kind of champions were having banned away from Froggy, he's also one of the mid laners that like to be a facilitator. And it makes a lot of sense because the stylistic of being so aggressive around the jungler, like you have with BJ, you need a guy that's reliable in terms of setting that jungler up in the mid lane. And that's why Froggy quite often finds the facilitation. So even then, Seraphine will be banned away from Froggy in that mid lane. Galio was one of his champions he's played in the past, and I'm pretty sure he's done it into the Sylas too if they want to look for that matchup.
I mean, Froggy's Sylas at MSI is definitely one of the champions that I remember him playing fairly significantly. Reminder that, of course, they did represent VCS at that event as Gamma were unable to attend. This is Saigon Buffalo's first game back on the international stage, on the world stage, correction, since 2018. Now I want to see where this draft goes, with Jarvan as the final ban from the Buffaloes. Wildcats will have some chances here. Do they lock in the support and give counter pick for top lane? Do they lock in top lane because can they make an educated guess?
I feel like, I mean, Poppy is just a champion you can look for here as well, just to shut down the sack immediately.
And the Hecarim.
I mean, Hecarim is unstoppable, at least in the ultimate at least.
Devastating
of
charge,
course, yeah. So with Trundle, you serve the same purpose. To pillar into Hecarim, Hecarim find that's really annoying because of the slow, and the fact that you can actually cancel sack mid-air with the pillar is also something to go for. This does, however, give the flex over to the side of Saigon Buffaloes. They know what they're going to be playing up against, and Wildcats have decided that they want to leave that counter pick for Farfetch down in the bot side. Now, Leona and MissFortune is already a composition we've seen one time today.
Yep.
And it looked super good from Rox and Upset, bringing it out, of course. So team fighting also seems to be the name of the game from Saigon Buffaloes, with the kind of CC and the potential, potency by the ultimates that they're able to get out together.
Now, the question I'm going to ask you is, where is this Hecarim and Zach and Gwen going to finish?
Well, now it's easy. You throw that Gwen up towards the top side, Hecarim going over to BJ, and Froggy. Wait, actually, see? No. All right, you're right, you're right, you're right. You got me. You got me there.
I don't know how this is going to play out. So Kai'Sa is now looking to be supported here for Farfetch.
Oh, this could go support, and this would be great because it actually
what is going on? The last few seconds,
I actually liked it, and that's my bad for talking about a hover, but I actually did like the Poppy flexed into the support role instead, but having the Alistar into the Leona is by no means bad either.
Okay, so let's take a few seconds here and zoom out. Let's start by looking at the Wildcats composition because we're not expecting shenanigans before we see what happens in Saigon. How do Wildcats want to win the game? They've already lost one today.
I mean, once again, I think when you have a Trundle, you have to try and take charge of the early game instead. While I'm not sure how the mid lane is going to go in terms of who gets that push, so I'm having a hard time saying like how they'll actually get the early game going. It's more something where I'm going to sit back and I'll tell you why it's happening. But outside of that, usually with the Trundle, you want to be able to be one of the skirmishes level 3 that just basically never lose anything. So if you have anyone to actually come up and facilitate you and get the early game going where you can just go even into the mid to the late game, that at least sets up Wildcats for what, stylistically speaking, from what we've seen in regular season from them, from what we've seen in playoffs, has been their strong suit. But sack mid, it's the first time I've ever seen this.
I don't think it has been played. I am asking my stats team backstage to validate
I love Vietnam.
if it has ever been played in the mid lane, and I'm going to second that. I love Vietnam in the VCS. Saigon Buffaloes come into this game with the 4th highest combined kills per minute. And in terms of kills per game, they're 6th at Worlds with 15.7 kills per game. And their game time does average 31 minutes. It's the 5th fastest.
Yep.
Now, I want to see how that works out, because I think they'll be slow-ish to start with the Hecarim, the Zac, the Gwen. But once they hit 6, they are all just going to go in over and over and over and over.
I mean, they might just ignore the fact that the champions might not be the strongest without those ultimate and look for it anyway. You know what this reminds me of? This is like an old montage video. This is an old Peace Pigeon montage video where they're just looking to make whatever wombo combo that's going to make sense. Throw in some Monster Cat music, and you got yourself a video.
Oh man, Peace Pigeon, one of the classic montage makers.
I always said you only know you made it in esports if you
Until-
made a montage about you. Did you ever have a montage?
I did it, yeah.
Oh, did you?
Been around a long time.
Ah, damn.
Yeah.
I was hoping to catch you there.
Got a few, you know.
Yeah.
One day you'll grow up to be a big shoutcaster boy.
Peace Pigeon, if
You'd
you're
wear-
out there and want to get
Remember
back.
your school uniform at the moment? It looks really cute. I really like it.
This was a tie that Mac
Good ball.
gifted me.
Oh, nice. I mean,
And
2-0 on the day.
Yeah,
Life's
exactly.
doing well. Let's turn our attention to the Buffaloes. And more specifically, I think maybe let's talk a little bit about these dragons, these junglers. It has been a long day, ladies and gentlemen, everybody else. BJ and Ferret, that Hecarim into Trundle. They are starting both respectively in the top half.
Yeah, they are. And while that is interesting, I would really love if we could get the runes back up. I don't know if it's actually possible because AP Sack in the top side when you played him was with Conqueror as well. You're kind of looking for the old Riftmaker or Leandries to just keep it going. Get the extra AP you get, but also the healing that you have. So knowing what Froggy really has gone for to set himself up for success with this could be curious, but at least it pairs up to with a Conqueror being locked in. I am baffled, and I am genuinely baffled. Now, from the side of the junglers, we can bring it up now. Ferret, he's going for the old reliable where you take red buff and you move yourself down towards the bot side immediately. He's done this before as well, and he's looking to just find a gang before the enemy bot lane hits level 2. Farfetch, have you started Q? You have that
He
flash.
has. WE neither has been ranked up just yet. Yep, Pillar available to him.
Yep.
Ferret, yep. Pillar, double knockup. Headbutt is going to be flashed away from Shogun.
the tower, he's
Stunned
on the tower.
Stunned on the tower. The tower shot comes out. And Taki turns it around. Now Shogun continues to free fire. The cow's running for his life. And HolyPhoenix cannot auto attack. Cannot. He Captain Rain. The Zenith.
He's under the tower now.
The headbutt forward. I love Vietnam. But it's the Wildcats that bounce it back. A 1-for-1. That was both beautiful and awful at the same time.
You may not like it, but that is what peak League of Legends looks like. And it comes from both Turkey and Vietnam, at least in the first stages of Play-Ins Day. And I mean, it was a good thing to get red buff on one member of Saigon Buffaloes, but even better to get it back on towards HolyPhoenix afterwards. And it looked good in the beginning. It looks like you almost get the classic Alistar combo where you pulverize him back into the enemy team, you pick up the kill, but just great presence of mind from Taki to just immediately find that center plate. And the cooldown on Leona is so short, so he's still looking. But this is where you put yourself in prime position for Farfetch, just knock you away, and then HolyPhoenix with that last auto attack pick it up. But we're not done yet.
Oh my word, we're back to another fight. BJ this time jumped on by Serin. Now, this will get the blood pumping. We just set the fastest win of the day as Loud were able to take down DFM. Saigon Buffalo and the Wildcats are trading blow for blows. There's the possibility this could break that.
Oh, here we go. No flash on Shogun, so Farfetch could still look, does have that Hex fight. But you know what? This is what my jet-lag body needs. Just inject it into me.
Oh, I'm going to find out how much action is going to play out here.
Oh, it's going to continue.
As Froggy is now being jumped on in the middle lane. We'll throw out that stretching strike. I'm going to find the next target.
Look at the support. Look at Farfetch.
Hex flash, Hex flash, Hex flash! Froggy gets knocked up and his passive is popped. Froggy will be channeling FLICKR from All-Stars 2018. Ask me why, Gulborg.
Why?
Because at All-Star 2018, FLICKR played Zac mid. It's the only other game that we can find of Zac mid being played, so not a formal game. And do you want to know why he channeled FLICKR?
Yeah.
They lost that game
Oh my
to
word.
Rookies Malzahar. So that was a super BM call that my stats team enabled. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, but actually taking it back to what we talked about to bring some seriousness into it, we did not expect Wildcats to be the team that was going to pull the trigger. We did say with the Trundle, we wanted you to be proactive.
Yes.
And so far, Ferret has actually been so. Not so much in terms of counter jungling like you usually would see on the Trundle, but actually in terms of facilitating the laners instead. And by enabling the bot lane, also enabled the roam that we saw from Farfetch, which he was then able to get some pressure in the mid lane too. And they continue. Look at the mobility here.
I mean, this is fantastic from the Wildcats because we were anticipating a much slower pace of game. When we do look at how they do play out their wins from the TCL, Froggy's going to land that stretching strike, looking for a secondary target. I love when two champions get pulled together, attach one, attach two, now
Yes.
kiss, and that will be followed up with all the CC. I mean, if that lands and Leona follows and Hecarim follows, that is how Saigon Buffalo will want to accelerate this game. But it's the Wildcats. They've got 2 kills. They're only marginally behind in gold. And I think they also have a huge amount of engaged tools themselves.
Yeah, but at this point in time, there's two ways you can look at it. You can look at Wildcats to completely elevate it as well and continue with the gold lead they have. But even then, they have a good scaling aspect of their side too. Don't have to be too worried about it. And Kai'Sa pairs really well into the Hecarim. She pairs really well into the sack. And of course, if they're not immediately in your face. But the fact you can go invisible, kite with your ultimate, and have that passive to really shred these tanky stats, it's amazing.
I mean, I want to just take a brief moment to remind everyone, Shogun and Taki, I know you will have heard it and seen it, but when they played that opening game against T1 at MSI, the bottom lane is what took off. I mean, at one point, I think Shogun was, what, 7-0-1 or something? T1 was significantly further ahead in kills, but this game again, it's Shogun and Taki with the extravagant, the flamboyant, the over-the-top early game. Even on CS, the kill was secured by Taki, was matched by HolyPhoenix, who's one of the danger players for Wildcats, and with them pushing in that bottom wave, they've started Dragon, but SGB, I think they want to challenge this. BJ, I'm trying to look, he's not yet level 6. Headbutt Pulverize comes forward. That's the stun from the Shield of Daybreak. They engage, yet another knockup. Serin hits 6 off the kill. That's an instant reply, 1-for-1, both supports are down, and they disengage from the Buffaloes.
Yeah, Froggy coming around as well, seeing if he can find anything, and actually, despite his team members having backed off, they still look for it. HolyPhoenix, no flash.
Bullet time, one more Rufflecopter, helicopter, make it rain, and the Auto 2 secure. Buffaloes pick up their second 1-0 to 100% kill participation on Shogun's MissFortune.
Yeah, play looked good in the beginning with Farfetch finding that Hex Flash. Once again, like, they continue to be aggressive. Wildcats looking like they wanted to pick up that early objective like we saw Loud do earlier, but they really do it to bait in their opposition. They have the vision control. They try to push him back, knowing Taki doesn't have any flash, but Ferret is still on the Drake, and that makes it a 3v3 in the beginning that allowed Saigon Buffalo to trade even. And now that Froggy is finally able to be enabled from the mid lane, they can move. What HolyPhoenix is doing here, he's just walking back and forth, and because he's indecisive, he just gets caught in the middle between a rock and a hard place.
I also love the name synergy with the elastic slingshot. A Froggy jumping far down the river. It's just thematically on point, as we do get a Lisai facepalm. Now, of course, the top lane is under pressure. Buffalo, once again, they are initiating. They didn't like the fact the Wildcats were throwing as many punches. 7 kills, 8 minutes, and 1,600 gold lead to Saigon Buffalo.
Yeah, and there you have it. This is the roam you want Taki to be able to do. We see him do this so many times, even on Enchanters as well. He'll be the one. He'll making the plays up towards the top side. Now, fight. Wildcats coming
locked
through
in,
here.
locked in. BJ's caught out between the pillar and a hard place. Onslaught of Shadows need to go defensively. Froggy is going to be able to escape with that slingshot. And Gilbert, you are not going to be able to analyze a lot, because in the time it takes to set up and explain a point, they're already engaging again.
It doesn't help either that I see IW and I just think I will dominate, so I'm really finding a hard time here. But now, Wildcats haven't started up that Rift Herald, looking to see if they can potentially turn as well on Taki again.
He gets caught, Zenith Blade doesn't pull him out, StarScreen forces the flash from Shogun, BJ engages, he's got no ultimate, the Rift Herald is still being focused. What are you doing? There's nothing gone down yet. Rift Herald does get killed off, is now Ferret's running away for his life. Snip, snip, snip.
No one's been able to pick it up
as well. Nobody's picked up the eye just yet. Zenith Blade as well as the solar flare goes down. It was Taki that was caught to begin this, and now all of a sudden he's trying to rejoin the fight, but the rest of the Wildcats are destroying Saigon Buffalo. What is this team fight? Everybody involved, but the Wildcats win it all.
And this is how Wildcats do it. Usually they find it in team fights. I mean, it's all over the place. An early game when no one's getting blown up in the beginning, it is just long team fights you're in for. Now, Rift Herald is in pocket. I wonder if you're looking for it immediately now. You don't have to extend the play just yet. You still have loads of time to take a chill and just collect yourself and find the correct play with it. And that's exactly what Wildcats is going to do, so I do recommend them of this.
Oh my word, 13 kills, 9.5 minutes. It is all of a sudden the Wildcats that are up, what, 15, 1,800 gold? So that was nearly a 3k gold swing. How do you explain this fight,
this could have been really good if Taki actually managed to find the center plate afterwards on Farfetch, because then you get out of the situation and you still keep your reliable CC around. A lot of the pressure goes down to Froggy now. BJ has just been put out of the fight. He's actually trying to secure the scuttle. And it's just a lot of unfortunate skill shots missing here. If the sack Q is there to set up the kill, maybe you find something. But it's just way more reliable CC from Wildcats here, and it makes the fight so much easier.
And I mean, this target focus as well. Wildcats, as soon as they start having members going low, they back out. The Buffalo are unable to find those last hits, unable to secure the kills. For a brief moment, it looked like everyone was going to die everywhere, but ultimately, the Wildcats come out with a significant win. They were down 1,800. They were up a fair amount before now the waves have been caught. We need to take stock of the lanes really quick. In the top lane, StarScreen's down 30. Solar Flare, as well as the onslaught of shadows. The headbutt under the tower, devastating charge to safety. Not going to be enough, and the Wildcats pick up yet another. The burn will not take HolyPhoenix down. And it's the Wildcats that pick up yet another kill in like mobility shenanigans everywhere.
Man, Farfetch is just getting freebies all the time. Froggy's around though this time around, and you will pick up the kill on Ferret. Shogun takes back that red buff.
Today I learned frogs can kill ferrets, and buffaloes are looking to kill wildcats. Teleport under the tower, pick up the turret plate, and slingshot away to safety. That will bring StarScreen into the fray.
That's an interesting TP because you do this to get waves and make sure they can't take plates, but then on the top side, now you're actually just giving Hasmed time to pick up plates. So they get Serin, who is pushing the mid lane. He's now going to move up towards the top side, but you still lost a plate for it. 1 for 1 in terms of kill, but in terms of gold, you're securing on the map. Saigon Buffalo looking good, and Hasmed just meeting up with Serin.
Serin and Hasmed currently trading blows. Needlework, traded back and forth, but there's a hijacked in return. Serin's also fighting into the minion wave. No support yet. BJ moving up towards that top lane. Once again, Buffaloes, they arrest control of the gold. Wildcats for a moment, and I think in terms of CS, bot lane and top lane, Hasmed and Shogun doing very, very well. Up 30 in the bottom lane, and even more in the top lane. I'm not going to try to do math, it's too late. Because BJ's on the hunt.
BJ looking for a kill. Most likely won't find it with the, well, opponent Trundle being spotted on the top side. This should just be a Drake being secured up for Wildcat. It's not going to be a stack, but it's them picking up their first dragon. It felt like they've already gotten one, but there's been so much fighting around these neutrals.
Okay, so I think what'll determine this game, who's better at team fighting? Let's just look at compositions. Do you prefer one to the other?
You hold up, you're not going to get the chance.
We literally
BJ
get a
might
chance.
look for flank here as he's coming in.
We're gonna step forward. We're gonna use that devastating charge directly into the ways of Froggy, who gets caught up by the pulverized. Stretching strike comes out, and Shogun stepping forward. Bullet time's available to him. Firing across. Farfetch survives. Thanks to Unbreakable Will on his ultimate, and now all of a sudden, Farfetch, HolyPhoenix correction, lands that W. I'm waiting for the engagement. I'm literally waiting for a target to get jumped on.
Just hold it.
They're going to back away for now.
And there you have it. So the play is over, but it's one of these small flanks. StarScreen was around to look for a potential play, because HolyPhoenix does still have that ultimate if they're looking for anything, but they're going to keep it steady just for now. But this time around, no one's getting knocked in on the tower. B&J finds the pick onto Ferret, and a great soul of there as well, just to set him up with Froggy coming in afterwards.
And I kept waiting to see whether or not HolyPhoenix would look for that Killer Instinct engage, or whether or not Farfetch would get jumped on, because that's what's happened every single time. Number 1 dragon goes to the Wildcats, and Ferret steps forward. Hasmed got Ghost available to him. The Revice can be a potential threat. Serin continues to hammer away. Hallowed Mist is down. Snip, 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 as well as Needlework has already been fired out, and Serin survives for now, looking for Kingslayer, looking for the slash, the dash, the chains, find the kill. 10th on the board for the Wildcats. Serin 3-0-4 on Sylas.
Yeah, and incredibly greedy by Hasmed. They barely have any vision or intel about any of the opponents from Wildcats, so going for the engage there, he kind of begs for it, and the rest of his team is just too busy clearing up the camps. There is still a jungle advantage for B&J. You can see he's level 9 to Ferret's 8. They might need each other here as well, but Center Lane does not connect this time around.
I mean, that frozen domain movement speed is really going to help Ferret out. He was stepping for, at the last moment, decided to go back to the top lane and avoided the Zenith Blade. B&J and Taki still on the hunt because Froggy's in the top lane. Wave is being caught mid from Shogun. He's got his Kraken Slayer to match HolyPhoenix's Kraken Slayer as well as Phantom Dancer.
Yeah, and it's really important you highlight these mythics on extra items coming in now, of course, because 20 seconds and Rift Hell will be the play. When you look at the minimap right now, all the wards are lit up in favor of Saigon Buffalo, but if you look at the minimap again and actually just keep your focus pin there, you'll see that they've been on resets from Saigon Buffalo. This allows Wildcats to get in there and clear up the vision if they're decisive enough to do it in time, but they're actually going to leave it be, move into the mid lane, and potentially try and see if they can take care of this turret.
StarScreen, look at StarScreen. He's got that prison available to him. Serin is stolen away. The onslaught of shadows, that finds the chain onto Taki. Solar Flare locks him up. He can't even fire the hijacked ult. It does allow the tower to be secured. But once again, it is the Wildcats engaging. It's the Wildcats that are ramping up their play. to throw down with Buffalo.
And they might still do it. You can see it. No vision on the bot side. Here comes the Glacial Prison.
Won't find a direct hit. Taki slowed but not stunned in place. And all of a sudden, Wildcats unable to find more. Buffalo this time standing in the darkness, hoping the Wildcats step into them.
Yeah, and you can even just see it on the bot side as well. If they're not taking this fight, Hasmed has taken away turret plating. He kicks off the turret. Now he comes in with the TP flank.
Teleport, teleport, teleport. Hasmed step forward, using that snip onto StarScreen. He's got no ultimate available to him. Farfetch just got a leak in the boat and taken down by Hasmed, and all of a sudden it's Buffalo's inside the pit.
Yeah, so Ferret does still have that flash, but no smite, so even trying to contest this Rift Herald is probably not going to be the play. And the timing in that is actually really good for Saigon Buffalo, because they can pick up this neutral objective, and they will have the time to move back with a reset, have it utilized for the Drake. They'll actually be spawned in 1 minute as well, so good stuff from Saigon Buffalo, and a good way for them to continue with the gold lead that they currently have.
I am so surprised and happy to see what the Wildcats are doing, not only from the prep that we had coming in. I hate you right now.
I love each other.
Because they are fully committing, engaging, playing proactively, or as you children will say, sending it.
Exactly, and I think even looking for plays here, you can do it because you know the top laner is playing down towards the bot side, but this is the vision control we were talking about earlier as well. Wildcats never cleared this. They went for the mid lane to look for a fight, and because you did that, you gave agency for Saigon Buffalo to actually find these flanks, to find the intel that they needed for it, and they punish on it immediately. So the overextension from Wildcats continue, even stemming back to the first play they had.
Now, can the Wildcats stabilize this, or are they comfortable enough with this approach to their gameplay to be able to keep this pressure up, and more importantly, actually take the lead? Because despite the kill advantage, the dragon advantage, Buffalo have had the gold lead for a larger portion of this game. We're 17.5 minutes in, Herald has dropped top, and I just want to set a goal for everyone watching at home. The highest amount of total kills throughout the course of Players Day 1 was set by Mad Lions and Isras Gaming at 34. Mad Lions picked up 22 kills, Isras 12, so 34 was the most kills in the game. We're already at 90.
We will beat it. We will beat it. That is the goal of this game as well. Now, Rift Herald as well, topside has been expanded. They're looking to see if they can get a second turret, but members are not really in a position to capitalize on it, and good job by StarScreen as well by shutting it down. Continue.
While we have a brief moment, let's talk a little bit about this Zac mid. It may not be the most scientific of games to evaluate the validity or the power of Zac mid, but how do you think it's gone for Froggy?
Well, first of all, I don't think it's been bad. And having mid laners that play a facilitating style, a champion like that is not bad either. If you're under threat of being what's the...
Dove.
Dove.
Yeah, Divon's a better one. I like Divon though. So
Dividone from... maybe that's not your show, actually. That's too early. Sorry, Nickelodeon. Either way,
being dived a lot and working well.
And working well with the passive that you have. And also just like having the CC to facilitate members in a team fight is exactly what Froggy wants.
And now we actually have the time to talk about it. This game feels like it's going to come down to whoever's going to play the team fights better. And it's been a mixed bag of good execution, interesting outplays. Do you prefer one team composition to the other? Because I think the Wildcats one is just more traditional, right? And I think if Saigon Buffalo can make their comp work, maybe, but I'm trying to wrap my head around it.
How I use my analysis is by watching a lot of pro games, and I use that data as I see what happens in my analysis to then find out like what I really like when they then play against each other, because I've seen it so many times.
This is new territory.
It is new territory. Yeah. This is learning experience for me, and I think both of the teams have had to theorize, have ways where they play these team fight well. I think it comes down to execution, how you use them, but if there's one player I would say make the difference, it's HolyPhoenix on a Kai'Sa that can actually kite out a lot of the CC that comes through from Saigon Buffalo.
Killer Instinct is going to be so crucial then. HolyPhoenix has that available, has Flash available, has Cleanse up as well. Shogun, no Flash, by the way, but if you look at the minimap, Wildcats currently playing the side lanes. StarScreen in the bottom lane, Serin in the top lane, and this is the longest passage of play in 20 minutes. Nobody has yet gone down. 2 dragons to Wildcats. The 1,000 gold difference really is insignificant at this stage of the game. And there's 2 important items completed for both bot laners. It's only Froggy that's a little bit behind the itemization. Teleport's now being channeled here at Gulborg, and it looks like Wildcats slowly starting to group up. But ultimately, they will defend the tower. They will concede the teleport to do so. Neither team really able to now force their opponent's hands. There's not enough tower secured to push deeper into the territory for deep wards either.
You say that, there's actually quite a few towers to secure as well in terms of finding them here, because outer turrets have still not all fallen. Tier 2 turrets, despite being 20 minutes into the game, have not really been equalized upon either. Usually we see that happen in a larger amount of play with the second Rift Herald, but it was shut down as well. And it puts them in this lull state where it's just like, they want to commit to a fight. They want to find a way where they get an advantage, not only just in terms of team fighting, but in terms of map stating. But the only way they do it with their team composition is trying to look for a fight, but they're trying to find the right ground for it. It's like they're building their battleground. They're placing around the vision, they're looking for the right time, and they're looking, well, for the right, I actually don't have the word for it.
Right moment to engage.
Exactly.
I mean, the right moment to fight. The thing I want to look for is whether or not Buffalo can use Hasmed's Gwen on the side lane in any way, shape, or form. I like that Serin and StarScreen were trying to set up some form of, sort of, I don't know, slow push or not. The answer from Buffalo was just to group up. And if you can see there immediately, Hasmed at least caught that top wave and pushed it back out. But it feels to me like both teams have now kind of said, okay, let's calm down. Let's think about how we play out this mid to late game. We're a minute and 10 seconds away. So for Buffalo, you have to expect they would want to contest this dragon. For the Wildcats, ideally, if they could pick, get a pick, get a kill beforehand, secure it without a fight.
Yeah, most definitely. But also, Wildcat, they have that luxury that they still love scaling. Like, if this game goes slow, they don't care. And the same goes for Saigon Buffalo. But in terms of what they're picking up, in terms of the Drake, you can clearly see that they're trying to just keep that stacking going. Mountain Drakes are incredibly broken in this kind of state we have here. Picking up 2 Mountain Drakes alone with the extra resistance by percentage you get in the late game can make your AD carry go to just 100 armor and be like a tank, off-tank in its own right.
Yeah, but add that to a Sejuani and base kit stats. Add that to a Trundle that's going to be able to subjugate away, as well as Alistar. So Mountain Drake with the composition the Wildcats have. Now, to be fair, I can say the same thing with Hecarim, Zac, and Leona, right? So it's going to be good for both sides. The difference being here, Wildcats are 2 dragons ahead of the pace. And there's not enough vision inside that red quadrant. There's one just behind the dragon pit that the Wildcats have placed down. And I'm looking at the minimap. StarScreen will be making his way there, holding on to the TP. Farfetch looking for a flank.
Oh, he might be the one being flanked in a bit, though, if he's not careful.
He's going to get caught out here by BJ. Buffalo are fully aware of it. Will he go the way of the Dodo? Onslaught of Shadows committed. Solar Flare committed. Farfetch has thrown down the Unbreakable Will and still alive. Still alive. Flashes still alive, but not much longer. The bullet time will take him down and StarScreen will follow. Buffalo managed to catch the Wildcats, who did not sacrifice their support. And they will suffer the consequences. 3 dead already. Elastic Slingshot and the Stretching Strike will not find its target. 3 quick kills. The Buffalo will look to secure both the Dragon and potentially the Baron.
That is just going to be the Baron. Ferret does not have that flash, and he does not have the smite. Well, he does have the smite at the moment, but finding agency into the pick is going to just be so damn difficult. Gwen shreds Baron. Shogun's around as well. This should just go over to Saigon Buffalo.
I really want to see on that replay. In my head, the Wildcats should have just left Farfetch to die instead of stepping forward.
Yeah.
That's my head.
No, I mean, that's true. That's not just your head. I mean, your head is saying the right thing, and now find themselves in a great position. And it makes sense to look for a flank, but the problem is, even if you find it right now, your team is not in a position to capitalize. Like, look at the vision control that currently is in River. Farfetch doesn't have River control. It's all Saigon Buffalo. And even in flashing over, just meeting the MissFortune ultimate, finding yourself in a 5 versus 4, and yes, some ultimates are down, doesn't stop the CC from still coming through. You're playing into a Leona, you're playing into a Zac, and you're playing into a Gwen that's still going to keep the consistent damage going, despite not having the ultimate available any longer.
I mean, I'm wondering,
yeah,
I don't think it was the right call. I think it was a mistake.
Yeah, I think you're right about that.
That explains it. I mean, that fully explains it from the Wildcats.
And that's the turning point as well, because despite Saigon Buffalo still, being quite even with them in a gold lead, the game state was in a position where Wildcats were still feeling comfortable. But now that gets completely ripped away from them, and now it's on the other side of Saigon Buffalo. Even if it goes late game, if they're the ones who start striking these Mountain Drakes, if they get 4 of them, they get 36% extra armor and magic resistance.
Now, I will say that when we look at that play, and I think when we evaluate sort of the 20, the 0 to 20 minute mark for the Wildcats, not a team that we've associated with this style of play that we see in this game, not one that like that regularly.
Yeah.
But they do win a number of their games on the TCL through team fights, right? Through late game fights, late game calls. Their comp goes late often, or their team goes late often. They're now in a very difficult position. The Red Bull Baron power play is already at 1600. They're down 5k gold. They're losing an inhibitor turret. They're not in their base to defend. Look at the minimap. There's no one here to defend. Buffalo will not be able to pick up the kill just yet, but the bull time does so much damage. 1-for-1 traded, and Hasmed can continue to step forward, looking for the snip, snip, snip. Froggy will flash away from the chains, gets popped into his passive, and Shogun can come to save. StarScreen escapes with his life. It's a 1-for-2. The brace is broken open. The inhibitor will fall as well, and like, the Wildcats were just not there.
Yeah, and since the recalls are coming through, you might even look for any turrets. Pings are there, but they're not going to overextend their stay. They get the mid lane inhibitor, they get what they wanted, and they can still go for the recalls with the Baron empowered recall.
25 kills in 25 minutes. The record today was 34. And I want to take another look at that mini-map if we do get a replay, because I'm not sure if they were chasing Hasmed or similar. I didn't quite see why Wildcats didn't respond, because that was a 3-tower mid-lane push.
I think they're just I mean, it's just a read, right? And like, they had the read that they thought they could go for it. In reality, they just couldn't, and that just becomes the play afterwards that happens. Now, coming out from this, having mid lane inhibitor, it's not the worst. It's easy for Saigon Buffalo to push it in and then move down to a lane. But let's say if it was bot side, then that just would have meant that Saigon Buffalo could play on mid lane and top side, and bot lane would be an instant pressure all the time. That would be harder to move on, because we slower to get up there. Now Serin and StarScreen gets around.
HolyPhoenix has got that killer instinct, can look to engage with it in just a moment. Some plasma is applied. Stun will lock down Froggy. Remember, he's got no passive from the previous fight. Look at the minimap though, look at the minimap. 4 members of Buffalo pushing the bottom and the middle lane. Hasmed's gonna guide the super minions forward. And the 6th and final creation, 6th tower will fall. There's one final outer turret in that top lane. And look, it was a very dramatic start to the game, but this is what we were anticipating from how these two teams would match up. I think Buffalo, with the advantages they get from team fights, are playing the map, picking up more neutrals as we've moved into the mid to late game.
I mean, I expected it from Saigon Buffalo, but I genuinely did not expect Wildcats to come in with the approach that they did to the game. Usually from them, we see them started in the mid game where they want to skill check their opponents and out team fight them, but they wanted to do that from the get-go. Yeah. I think props to them for really just coming in with the bloodlust for it, but maybe too much bloodlust with, of course, Farfetch getting caught off guard and the rest of the members taking that team fight. Yeah. 30 seconds on the second Mountain Drake to put you on the clock there in terms of the resistance you're giving over. If Saigon Buffalo get it, they are now getting 18% extra magic resist and armor. And that is a lot at this point in the game when you see players building the Deadman's Blade, already a Fawn Mail. I don't really think it's the best buy on Froggy, but it's still going to give you a lot in terms of the extra armor you have.
I mean, look, I'll tell you now that including, base armor here for BJ is at 98, plus the bonuses he's getting, it's up to 162. Magic resist, 62 when combined. 201 armor, 100 MR on the side of Froggy. Let me just look at Shogun. 141, 51, 84 base armor, plus 58 bonus on a MissFortune.
I just want to demonstrate how broken this is. Can we please highlight Shogun so we can see his armor in a bit? Because he's now bought the Guardian Angel. And having that Guardian Angel and looking at it, we might actually not be able to see it because of the inhibitors. Yeah. Trevor, would you do me the favor?
I just gave you numbers, my friend, as you were looking at the screen. 141, and with the bonuses now jumped 153. 84 base, plus the nice 69 bonus.
So there you have it.
Yeah, I mean,
153 just from the armor on an AD carry. Now they're going to be hard to shred. Luckily, still you have the Kai'Sa, and that's really what you're looking for in that instance. You still have Serin, who's going to be a threat on the Sylas, sitting on the free items. But if you allow your opponent to stack up on mountains in the late game, it's just super valuable in terms of just getting percentage extra armor magic resist.
And it's going to continue to stack, right? 9, 18, 27, 36 bonus for every dragon. Saigon Buffalo could be super beefy there. Now we'll look at the top lane tower once again. Wildcats late to this play, not in time to respond, and you have to feel like either they're being bullied or they're just not reading what Buffalo are doing.
All right, it's difficult with the goalie, but you can see they are still looking. StarScreen was trying to come in with a flank there, but this time around, Saigon Buffalo, they're clever. They're playing on 2 lanes. If they play on 3 lanes, it's easy to catch a member off, like we saw with Froggy earlier. So they just want to keep the pressure up in that regard instead, but I think this might be one of the last waves with the super minions coming through. We'll probably have 1 or 2 more, and with this, Baron buff has been started up. Farfetch does have flash, he does have that smite available. Let's see how this pans out.
If Buffalo engage this fight, surely they don't just burger flip this, surely they don't just stick it. 4.5k start to back up. BJ's gone low. that will pull the Wildcats towards them, but in a full-on 5v5, stay down the barrel, neither team pulls the trigger.
Yeah, and we're still going to go back to this slow approach. We're not really looking for anyone to just, well, send it immediately on the tower, although there is a lot of tools for it. I think they just really respect the fact that they don't want to throw this game. It's the best of one. It's Saigon's Buffalo's first game of the tournament. And there's a lot of expectations for this team as well. Also from what we saw from MSI, what we have seen from BCS in the past. And seeing that Wildcats are actually stepping up to it and answering the call as well in terms of the same stylistic with the team fighting, it must be some pressure that you're facing.
And reminder, Dash and the analyst said this a little bit earlier, but Saigon Buffalo are the youngest team here at Worlds, with an average age of 19 years old. And this is a group of players that definitely have something to prove, definitely want to compete, and had a much closer season than they did in spring with the Gigabyte Marines, a team that everyone's going to be very familiar with. The first few kills of this game, Gulborg, you screamed at the top of your lungs, I love Vietnam. And right now, Buffalo looking to pick up this win. Can they initiate the fights?
Yeah, that's going to be the big question here, because Taki has actually fun. Farfetch again, he's popped up the ultimate and team fight breaks out.
Shogun's going to be able to flash away, gets out to safety. Solar Flare's going to slow down the Wildcats engage, and Farfetch is once again caught out. This time, BJ's running interference. The cow goes down. The needles are fired out from Hasmed, hop over the wall. StarScreen caught up inside the Baron pit. Serin's going to look for the chains, holding on to it. Got that flash available to him. Make it rain, continues to drop. Bullet time is available as well. Buffalo have got themselves 2 kills already. Serin has hijacked the bullet time. Starts firing it across, but Froggy will not go down. BJ continues to stick onto Baron. He's down below 500 hit points. 2,500 in the pit. 1,000 in the pit. Baron secured by the Buffalo. He will be able to get out, but that was close. 5v3, they get it.
Yeah, and once again, it's Farfetch. Even despite having Alistar and an ultimate coming with it, he gets isolated, he gets picked apart. It turns into a 4 versus 5, and it's going to be easy for Saigon Buffaloes afterward. And now with this Baron buff, surely this is where they start equalizing their pressure even further. They can move into the mid lane. They can start picking up that inhibitor. There's a Drake spawning in 1 minute and 30 seconds. But seeing how it pans out again, Farfetch, he gets aggressive, and then that flash from Shogun actually makes it so the Polarize puts him in a position where he's no longer pushing Shogun into the enemy team. He's pushing him back into Saigon with him, and that allows them to pick him apart.
I mean, I think that flash from Shogun was so crucial. Had he got caught out, that fight could have gone very differently, but I want to give some kudos there to BJ on the back, running interference, and yeah, Wildcats just, again, continue to stick around. I think bullet time could have gone very differently, but ultimately didn't. 28 kills, 32 minutes, we're a minute away from the next Mountain Drake. The gold lead is nearly 9,000 gold at the moment, approaching that 10K. And the team fights just become significantly harder for the Wildcats to play out. They really need to, frankly, find someone out of position like Farfetch has been found the previous time.
Yeah, exactly, and it's just difficult for them to find that momentum because it's them getting engaged on so many times and not them finding the right engages where they can really set up the team fight how they like it. Now, stacked wave in the bottom side that allows the rest of Saigon Buffalo to push into that bot lane. They don't even need the minions. They can just flank Wildcats right now if they want to.
What is the call here? Wildcats not really making a decision, getting caught down in no man's land. The inhibitors dropped, and Baron empowered cannon minions are now hammering away on the Nexus turrets. Solar Flare's been hijacked from Serin. That's AP scaling. Doesn't do too much to Taki's Leona, and the Mountain Drake's at work. The next one's spawning in 5 seconds. The return Solar Flare from Taki is great. The bullet time won't be able to find a kill. And Ferret's running for his life. The engage comes out now from that Froggy elastic slingshot. Onslaught Shadows goes forward. BJ forced to go golden and stays alive as the Baron part of minions are now taking down the middle inhibitor. 1 kill in replay. It's BJ down. Serin's trying to pop at least the GA for Shogun. And all of a sudden the rest of Wildcats back out. It's a 1-for-1. And as it stands, now Buffalo looking to finish this off. They want to pick up the win. Can they close it out? Stretching strike, manages to pull StarScreen towards a million. HolyPhoenix with a double up, gets chunked down low. Nexus turret number 1 falls, and it's Shogun that picks up yet another kill. Auto after auto is destroying the Wildcats. Shogun is melting through Istanbul. The Saigon Buffalo take down the Nexus for the win.
There's not clean, it was eventful, it was a lot of kills, there was a lot of action, there was a lot of indecisiveness, there was a lot of decisiveness. And in the end, Saigon Buffalo, they find the first victory of their world play-ins run.
And here's a quick stat for everyone watching. As far as we can tell, this is the first professional win for a Zach mid. That was a hard game to cast. We're approaching 11 hours in studio for you, Gulborg. can in a bit for myself, and the chaos in the early game kind of put everybody off balance. I have to wonder, you know, Wildcats tried to match blow for blow.
Definitely did. And I respect it so much.
Yeah.
It's really why I didn't expect them to show up. I'll be real. I did not have high thoughts of Wildcats going into the tournament. But having seen this game, I at least am more hopeful as to what they can achieve. Yes, they lose. And I understand that. I understand it's not a clean game. But considering what they're playing against in the rest of the competition and what they at least tried to do in the early game, makes me a bit more hopeful for them. But of course, there's still lots of struggles, and I think the same can be said for both sides.
I agree, and I do think, though, comparing expectations from regional play to then seeing the loss to Mad Lions and then seeing the adaptation now coming up against a Buffalo, that's kind of where the takeaway is. The problem is when you're down 0-2 in a BO1 single round romp, it's really, really tough.
Yeah.
Everybody at home, make sure to grab the exclusive very Nasus Much Wow emote from Prime Gaming by connecting your League of Legends account with your Prime account. While you grab that emote, we're heading back over to the State Farm Analyst Desk.
Where's he going?
Thank you so much, Quickshot. What?
Goldberg's just leaving.
Did he take off?
He took off his headset.
You got another game to go, my friend. Don't run off to anywhere just yet. One game, one win. It's your boys, the Buffaloes, Lyric. They did it.
Yeah.
They're doing it.
And
they don't miss.
You had the audacity to come to me and be like, hey, I'm going to ask you the Buffaloes. I'm always ready to be asked about the Buffaloes, and of course I'm going to call you out.
I didn't say they were going to lose this game. I just was like, you had such confidence around this team. Why?
How could you not? Did you? Zach Mid,
was a bit of a comeback.
First competitive win ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Zach Mid
That's very after the fact. That's very hindsight, 2020.
Well, the conversation we're having between the game is just like, Zach Mid, it's like, yeah, it's sleeper. And it's like, where is it sleeper?
Where?
Right? It's in Lolalytics solo queue if you sort by win rate in the mid lane. For like 2 years, Zach has been like weirdly towards the top, and you're like, yeah, why does no one play Zach Mid?
With like what, a 0.00005% pick rate?
Yeah.
Like,
enough to show up there consistently.
That's wild.
Right? But it like is almost impossible to port to the pro game because it's like, what matchup do you pick it in? What champions do you play it with? But they legitimately found an angle. It didn't look great.
No.
But
it worked.
It won.
Well, and it was, and again, like, this is not to disparage the pick. Like, I think actually showing that you can win with the pick, even if it wasn't necessarily the reason for winning. Again, we've talked all about how very early on in tournaments, you give evidence to teams about things that you're willing to play, and it's going to warp every team's approach to playing Saigon Buffaloes now. You have to consider the value of that pick, even if it wasn't, you know, the reason they won this game specifically.
It's kind of interesting to like look at the highlights of this game, right? Because we came in, we're like, okay, Buffalo is going to be the team pushing the pace early, so the Wildcats are going to kind of, you know, back off a little bit. But it was the Wildcats, the one looking for these early ganks. We really saw Ferret everywhere impacting the bot lane. He ganked the Zach Mid, got an early kill on that. And it was really just through skirmishes around things like Dragon and Herald where Saigon Buffalo were able to find their footing.
Yeah, really back and forth game, though. I mean, Istanbul Wildcats had a 5-man ace. They had 2 of the early Dragons. So really a scrappy game. When we talked in the pregame about how the Saigon Buffalo play such a chaotic style of League of Legends, this did more feel like their style of game than it would have been an ideal game for the Istanbul Wildcats. And Zach does create that level of chaos. His CS was low, his damage probably wasn't that great, but he is actually very difficult to play against. Even if you're down like 40 CS on Zach, I'd say the effective power of yourself in a team fight is still going to be equivalent to the other mid laner, which is what can actually make this pick strong.
Yeah, he hit his 2 items, right? He had Sunfire and he had a Thornmail and then Sork Shoes. And I was like, yeah, he's kind of full build as it is. And actually to your point, Jad, about kind of like chaos.
Yeah.
Zach, as a champion, is kind of an agent of chaos, right? Like, that is kind of his job. I jump in, I'm bouncing people around, I'm knocking them together. Like, he does completely warp the landscape of a team fight. And he was able to buy the space for Shogun on that MF to put out damage like that. Gwen as well doing work, and that shouldn't be ignored.
I mean, the big thing is, right, you kind of look at what Wildcats have in like Sylas and Kai'Sa, and they want to jump right on the MF, but how could you do that when everything on Saigon Buffalo, other than the MF, is jumping at you first, and you can't find those angles?
So, I mean, really, a great look out of Saigon Buffalo to kick off their tournament. And again, in a best-of-one single-round robin group stage, these wins matter. You've already set yourselves up for tremendous success, being a team that's only played once on day number one. In terms of the Wildcats, what are your takeaways here, though? Because, again, it's kind of a tough loss. You had your chances. You played against something that I have to imagine caught you a little bit off guard. I don't believe they would have predicted the Zach mid, but who knows? Like, how do you evaluate that loss if you're in the Wildcats camp?
It is a very hard loss to take because it's also their second one of the day.
Yeah.
And they haven't played RNG or DRX yet.
Yeah.
So being bottom two of your 6-team group means you are eliminated. If they can get a couple wins, they can be third or fourth and still have best of 5 chances. So I'll be really interested to see if tomorrow we see a vastly different style, maybe play all early game, or if they're willing to just stay with what they've been playing for most of the year, stick with the picks they've been doing today. But I feel like in situations like this, you almost have to throw out the book because they actually will be incredibly desperate going into the next few days of play-ins.
I guess, I mean, imagine the conversation is essentially this. It's like, do we believe that both of those games were truly winnable with a couple of minor adjustments? And in that case, I would probably be more in the camp of like, hold on to the book. You know, like hold on to the book. Trust your fundamentals, go back with a slightly more focused, strategy, and maybe you can execute. The other side of that conversation is, yeah, they were close, but it doesn't feel like we actually had the tools or making a minor change here or there would have turned the tide, in which case, yeah, throw out the book, come with something entirely different tomorrow, for your games and see if you can just kind of rewrite your history here.
I gotta say, like, their losses were definitely close.
Yeah.
And this actually might be something that's more of a downside, is that they've actually outdone my expectations. I thought they'd actually be one of like the weaker teams to come into play-ins, which might be based off teams in their region pushing them more. So that might just be like a false perception coming out from me in their region. Again, having more teams that could push them, but still, I think there's definitely hope.
Well, Istanbul Wildcats, they stumble here on day one, but for Saigon Buffalo, they kick it off on the absolute right foot. We're joining Laura and Froggy for our Verizon postgame interview.
And we're back in Mexico for the Verizon post-game interview. I'm here with Froggy after an amazing performance and amazing game from the Saigon Buffaloes. Thank you so much for joining me. The audience was cheering and clapping for you at the end. How did you feel about that, and did you expect it?
Sau khi trận đấu vừa rồi kết thúc á, thì khán giả đã rất là hò reo cổ vũ cho em rất là nhiều. Thì em cảm thấy điều gì về nữa?
Trước khi bước đến kỳ chung kết thế giới lần này thì em đã biết được rằng là có rất nhiều fan hâm mộ ở quốc tế muốn cổ vũ cho em và đội của em. Thì hôm nay họ đã thể hiện rằng là họ rất yêu quý em, thì em rất là vui và tự hào về điều đó.
Before coming to this Worlds, I've heard that he's got a lot of like international fans, and today they've really shown him that, and he feels really happy about it.
I can imagine, especially after such a good game. Tell me more about the Zach mid lane, please.
Em có thể kể thêm về cái lựa chọn đường giữa Zach không?
Thì em đã tra lịch sử đó của Cap Jisoo, Mid Jisoo. Thì em thấy anh ta sử dụng Zach ở trong đánh tập rất là nhiều. Thì em đã thử nghiệm nó. Thì em thấy nó khá phù hợp với lịch chơi của em. Là đẩy đường và kiểm soát hai bên sông. Thì em đã có trao đổi với đội luyện tập. Thì em thấy nó hiệu quả nên em muốn chơi ở đội trận này.
So I've been looking up into G2 Cap's match histories, and I found out that he's been using Zach. And then I've also tried it out for myself, and I found it really suits my playstyle, which is to push the lane quickly and then move Rom to the 2 sides. And then I had a brief discussion with my teammates and used it in the game.
It was really good, and I really love the Cap's inspiration here. But also, it speaks to the fact that you've been experimenting a bit more with your mid lane champions. I'm thinking of the Shyvana mid lane that you played also. Tell me about playing this kind of exotic picks. What makes you comfortable playing that?
Thì ngoài ra thì chị cũng đã biết là em có những cái con tướng đường giữa dị dị khác, chẳng hạn như là con Shyvana đi mid. Thì điều gì đã khiến em nghĩ đến cái việc là sử dụng những cái con tướng lạ như vậy?
Ở đầu mùa hè thì một số người chơi sử dụng Shyvana top. Thì khoảng thời gian trước lúc mà em đánh ranh em auto fill vào lên top thì em đã sử dụng tượng đó rất nhiều. Nhưng mà em muốn làm một gì đó khác biệt thì em thấy nó hiệu quả nữa nên em cũng sử dụng vào đường giữa luôn.
So in the beginning of the summer split, there were a lot of people that were using the Shyvana top. During his ranked games, he was getting auto-filled into top lane, into mid lane, no, into top lane actually. And then he had the chance to play the Shyvana a few times. He felt like it was a good champion that suits his playstyle, and so he just wanted to do something special, something different, and then brought it to mid lane.
Oh, looking forward to more exotic picks like this from you during World. Gaman, for the interview. Koa, thank you so much for the translation. And we're going to take a short break, and we'll be back in a couple minutes for the last game of the day, DRX versus RNG. Stay tuned.
Red Bull gives you wings.